Today, I have a beautiful conversation with Bibi. She's the second mother that I've spoken with who's birthed twins free of the medical system. We're coming to the end of season 1 for the Freebirthing in Color movement, and I couldn't leave this amazing twin free birth story until next season, so I had to put it out there now. Twin pregnancies, and especially births free of the medical system, are still quite rare. So I'm so grateful that I was able to speak with Bibi and have her share her words on birthing these two babies in her full power at home. Have a listen to the very fast emergences of all Bibi's babies, as these are stories not to miss, especially because Bibi was once herself a medicalized midwife and is now working with women that would like to birth free of the medical system. And one last thing, submissions are always open, women, so please reach out to me if you'd like to share your story of your birth, whether it was a twin birth or a singleton baby that was born free of the medical system. It's only with your stories that I'm able to keep this movement growing. So please reach out to me, submit your stories, and support this podcast by listening, donating, and sharing with all your friends. Hello, Bibi, and welcome to the Freebirthing in Color movement.
Hello, thank you so much for having me here.
Yes, I'm so grateful to have you here to speak your stories, to hear about all of your free birth experiences, especially birthing twins. You are the second woman that I've spoken to who has free birth twins, so I'm just so excited to hear the normalization of women birthing their two babies free of the medical system, because when you hear twin pregnancy, especially here in Canada, it's just two babies, automatic high risk. They have to be cut out of mother's body, all of that crazy stuff. And you're here as proof that that's not true. So I'm so excited.
Exactly, that is exactly right. I think it's the same a little bit all over the world because I'm based in Australia,
Okay.
and here it's very much similar.
Okay. Yeah. I'm pretty sure everywhere now, because no medical staff, really medical professionals, they don't know how to bring breech babies in the world vaginally, and they just aren't taught, and they won't, have multiples come through vaginally. So instead of getting into that talk, because I could talk about that forever, and that can be
I know, I'm just the same as you.
yeah, that can be an episode in and of itself. I want to hear your stories. So the first question I would love to ask you, Bibi, is what is your ancestry and lineage that you're passing on to your children?
Yeah, so it's a very singular one because I was born in Italy. So I am Italian. However, my dad and my mom, they are from Nigeria. And, everybody before them is from Nigerian. So that's what I'm passing to my children. And their dad is from Australia.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for that. Um, and then let's get right into it. So question number 2 is, where does your motherhood journey begin?
Yeah. So it began when I was little. I think when I was 5 years, I told my mom, well, the first thing I said, my mom, I wanted to be an actress. And she's like, no, you can't be an actress. Actors don't make money. It's not a good job. So I was like, okay.
Mhm.
Then I want to be a doctor that helps women to bring the babies to the world. So that was it. That
Okay.
is what I wanted to do.
I was
And I
the
started,
same.
yeah,
Yeah.
so good. And then I started just getting really interested in that, interested in motherhood, interested in the body of the mom, interested in, like, how do you birth? How do you bring babies to life and all of that? And fast forward, I tried to get into medicine, but I couldn't get in. And then they said to me, well, actually, that's a midwife. And I said, what's a midwife? And then I
Mm.
started Googling because we had Google back then.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, okay, then I'll just be a midwife. So when I was 18, I went into study midwifery. And I started my years at 19 years old. And by the age of 22, I was a full qualified midwife. And that's where my exposure to motherhood really was done, 100%.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was my
Wow.
first exposure.
Wow, that's amazing. I too, when I was younger, I always said I want to be a doctor who delivers babies. Because at that point I didn't realize that midwifery was the thing. And then yeah, and then moving on to it, working outside the system, never knew that was a thing. So it's really amazing that that's what you thought and felt as a child, and then moved into the midwifery practice. So are you still practicing like midwifery? Is it still within the system, or have you stepped away from that? How does that look for you
Yeah.
now?
So let's say my journey has been like kind of step by step. At the moment, after becoming a mother of three, after my twins, after all these things that I've seen, and
Mm,
that now I know, there is no way I can work at the hospital, because anytime I go, and I've tried, it's not that I haven't tried, because I've worked in the system for about 10 years, so I know exactly everything. But the problem is that after my twins, like anytime I try to go in, it's a fight. It's a fight.
mm,
It's a fight. It's a fight. It's a fight. And I'm
mhm.
feeling like I've got three kids. Like I really don't have the energy that I had when I was 19.
Yeah.
I'm 34 now, and when I go in and I fight for 12 hours, I come home that I'm exhausted, and my kids still want to be with me. So
Mhm.
I've now chosen my kids. I've chosen my life as mother.
Mm,
And on the side, I will teach women how to have the beautiful birth and step into motherhood the way we're supposed to. But
mm,
that's like kind of on the side, because my first job at the moment is being a mom.
wow, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, do you want to share with me then and go into that first pregnancy? Like, how old were you? When did this start? How did it come to be? And how did you
Yeah.
decide to free birth that baby right off the bat?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was about 29 years old. And at that point, I was in a moment of my career that I loved it,
Mm,
because I was actually working for the government. I
mm,
took on a big project of building a clinic for refugee women.
mm,
So that was the best time of my career, because I was working with refugee women, which means women coming from all over Asia and Africa, Afghanistan, and they showed me what was birthing, because
mm,
for them it was like, well, you say that you birth like vaginally, or it's either you birth vaginally, because they came from realities where there was not so much accessibility to
mm,
like the hospitals, which means that you had to like do whatever was in you to actually get this baby out vaginally. And so I
mm,
remember with them, I was pregnant with my first baby. And I remember like they would just call me, because I was on call for them. They would just call me once they were ready to birth. And really, like, I just saw 100% natural birth. And I was like,
mm,
wow. And it was already 5, 6 years I was a midwife. And I was like, wow, that is amazing. And so like, what I've noticed though is because they had me from when they were about 12 weeks up
mm.
until when the baby was 6 weeks.
Okay.
So what I notice is that continuity of care, having the same person through the journey,
Mm,
gives a higher possibility, that everything is just going to go right, because you've got
mm,
someone side by side with you that is advocating for you, that knows your story. And so I said to myself, well, that's what I want for my pregnancy with Milo. So I went on and I got a private midwife, and it was all good. It was all amazing. And about 20 weeks, I did my morphology scan.
mhm,
And what happened during that morphology scan, they actually find out I had three big fibromas.
Okay.
about 5 centimeters, not extremely big, but like 5 centimeters, right? So what happened is this midwife, she was private, but she had hospital rights. So I don't know whether it's the same there, but when a midwife, even if she's working private, she's got hospital rights. It means every month she has to show her caseload to the obstetrician at the hospital to maintain the hospital right. Which means in case someone goes in an emergency in the hospital, she can still continue the care.
Okay, yeah.
Without being pushed outside. So
Yeah.
some midwives, they do it for that reason. But there is another side of this, because if that obstetrician says he's not comfortable with someone birthing at home, the midwife cannot keep going with the care for a home birth.
Right. Okay.
So what happens? She is showing everything looks good, but the obstetrician see the 3 fibromas. And he said, well, she can birth at home because she's got higher risk of hemorrhaging after birth. And so she came to me and she said, you can't birth at home.
That's so crazy to me. Like that chain of command or whatever it is, that he can just say this. He doesn't know you. He's never even like met you once, but he still has that power and authority over this midwife that's been working with you for weeks. And then she just has to do it or else she loses her license. Like it's
exactly.
Ugh.
Exactly. And so at that point, I cried.
Yeah.
And I cried so much. Like my eyes were like out of my, bowl, because it's like for a lot of people, when you say to them, you can't birth at home, it's like, it's not a biggie. For me, as a midwife that I've worked in the system for so long, it was the end of the world.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my gosh. So I went home and I was crying so much that day I didn't even see, while I was driving, did an accident in my same garage, because I was just like panicking, And I remember just talking to my husband, and I said to him, like, I was crying so much. He couldn't understand what was happening. Like, it was so good because he holds space for me, And I was just like, I am not birthing at the hospital. Like, there is no way they're going to see me there, And then I say to my husband, I just want to do it myself. And he looks at me and he's like, okay. And so I start Googling, because I'm like, well, can you? I mean, like, can you birth by yourself? And like at that point, like, keep in mind, I am a midwife. I have been a midwife my whole life. I was about 29 years old. I started midwifery that I was 19. So it's kind of 10 years later, and I didn't know that you could birth by yourself.
Wow. Wow, that's like you putting it in perspective like that, 10 years of working within the medical system and not even having a clue that it's possible for women to just birth without medical assistance is shocking. Like that's so shocking. And so many women, so many people have that view because you just don't learn that there is another way.
Nobody tells you.
Wow. I mean, that is just incredibly mind-blowing.
And so it's because of work like what you do, that I came across the Freebirth Society. And I'm like, Freebirth? What is this? And so I went down the rabbit hole, And I'm like, okay, that's easy. I just stay at home, I birth. And then once I had my baby, I can go to the hospital, because I'm thinking it's just easier with the paperwork, right? Easy done. And so I told my husband, I said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And he's like, okay, fine. My husband is in the defense, like he's a military guy. So that means all he needs is instructions. Okay. So I was writing down all these instructions, all these things. I have my birth plan, like I showed him. And so we were ready. Like then what I did, actually, I didn't do much during my pregnancy because I fired the midwife, because I was like, well, if you're not, like, keep in mind, having a midwife in Australia is between $6,500 and $8,000, to have a midwife. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and this is Australian dollars. So in USD, it's like $14,000, something like that, right?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's like you can buy a car for that.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, well, if you're not gonna be there at my home birth, then you're fired.
Mm,
So that was it. So
mm,
my care finished there, and then I was still working at the hospital in the meantime. So I did try to mention to some of my colleagues, and one of my colleagues, she said to me like, but what if your baby dies while you are at home? I'm like looking at her, I'm like, excuse me? And like people, but the thing is that when you work in the system, it's so easy to say these things to people, you know? But
mm-hmm.
because I was pregnant, everything was so like, I was taking everything so personally, you know? And I was like, why would you say something? Like, why would you talk about a dead baby, you know, to like a pregnant woman, you know? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I really need to protect my space. So
Mm,
what I did is I didn't say anything to anybody. And I just played a good midwife. And
mm,
so I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'll just like go to this other hospital. So I went to another hospital because I didn't want to go where I was working. And I
mm,
booked myself because here you need like a booking visit to, it's like complicated, but it's like something to do that has to do with the system. So I did
mm,
a booking in visit just to be like, yeah, I'm pregnant. I'll come here, you know, once I birth.
mm,
Well, I told them I was gonna, you know, birth there, but it wasn't the truth. And
mm.
then during my visit, like the obstetrician said to me, because I'm quite short, I'm like 155-ish, 157. I'm really short.
Okay.
So my baby was growing just at the front. The obstetrician looked at me and is like, oh my gosh, you're so big. This baby is never gonna come out vaginally. Like that, you know? It's like I'm laughing, but I was like, oh my gosh. So he
Mm,
said, you need a scan. You need a scan right away because you know, if the baby's too big, we're gonna do an induction, yada 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 yada. And so I was like, yeah, that's fine. So he gave me the paper for the scan, put it in the bin, went home, and I was like, okay, that's it. I'm really done with everything, you know? And I was
mm,
about 36 weeks back then.
mm,
So then we just waited. Like I said to my husband, well, we're just gonna wait for labor, really, you know? So we just waited for labor, and I just did my thing, enjoy my, you know, last weeks of pregnancy. And then around 40 and one, I was a bit tired, to be honest. So I
mm,
said to my husband, I think it's time. This baby is ready to come. Like I could feel it. I
mm,
could feel it. I said to my husband, I think we're gonna have a baby soon. So I
mm,
said, let's just go for a walk. So we went for a walk. We did like a very long walk. We came home. I had spicy food. And then I said to him, I'm just gonna have some clary sage. So
mm,
just the essential oil. So I used clary sage essential oil, and then this was like nighttime. And then I'm like, okay, that's it. We'll have a baby tomorrow. I was like, I knew it, you know? And then what happened is around, tried to go to bed, couldn't really sleep. And around midnight, I'm starting to feel these contractions, you know, but there was still like Braxton Hicks,
mm,
but I could feel them. So so I didn't wake up my husband straight away, but I went in the shower, and started using the shower a little bit. And then I was like, at one point, I think labor is starting. So I
mm,
woke up my husband because, you know, we together we were like, we're going to put the candle, we're going to put the mattress. Like we need, you know, the environment ready
mm,
for all this. So I
mm,
woke him up and I said, I think it's time. And he's like, okay. So he's doing the candles, he's doing the mattress, he's taking the bowl, he's making like everything ready. And then at one point, I throw up. I think it was like almost two or something like that. I throw up.
mm,
And so my mom, that she came from Italy, she woke up. You know, it's like when your daughter throw up, it's like you are
mm,
awake for some reason. So she
mhm,
woke up and she's like, are you okay? And I said, yeah, mom, I think like I'm in labor. It's like starting, but don't worry about it.
mhm,
So being a midwife, and I've seen so many births in my life and so many labor, I in my head, because I've seen people like almost dying during labor. In my head, I'm like, this is not painful. So I know I'm not in labor. So I said to my husband, look, this is going to be like really long, because I prepared him. I said, normally first mom, 36 hours, you know what I mean? Like, this is what they say. So I said to him, like, look, it's going to be really, really long. So I was like, what about we take some pictures? Okay. But before I send him away to go and get the camera and everything, as a midwife, you want to check yourself. So I did check myself. So I put a finger to see how many centimeters I was. I was about 3 centimeters. Like, I could feel my cervix like that. I was about 3 centimeters. So I said to my husband, there is still a long way to go. Go and take some pictures. We'll take some picture. We'll take some videos, of the labor and all of that. Like, I was just dancing, happy. I was like, look, I'm still 3 centimeters. No way I'm going to stay in the shower for like 36 hours. So turn the shower off. I turned the shower off. But that was like, at that point, it's like I would say it's 2:15 a.m. And my husband is just gone. And I'm just like drying myself. And as I'm drying myself, I bear down and the head of the baby comes out.
No
so
way. No way.
So I yell and my husband comes in and he looks at me and I'm like, the baby's coming now. And the baby's out.
Oh my gosh, baby. That's crazy. Whoa.
That was it.
Wow.
No pushing, no pain, no long labor. The easiest, the quickest, the best labor and birth that you could ask.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah. So we only have 2 pictures. One of the head of the baby and one of the baby out. Because it was like quick.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so did your placenta come out really quickly as well?
Yeah, like I think 2 minutes after, placenta was out. Like, I was still looking at my baby and the placenta came out.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the fastest birth stories I have ever heard.
Yeah, it was just crazy, and I was like, wow, this was so good. Like, this was just amazing, and like, I would do it lots of times. Like, if I could just birth, I would just birth, like every year, if I could birth a baby, I will, But yeah, so then after the birth, we stayed at home for like 2 or 3 hours. I breastfeed the baby and like everything was well. But I knew that the birth was really quick, as in extremely quick, first baby, nothing stretched really. Like, it was just like, baby. So I was like, I think I might need some stitches. And when I went into the hospital, I had a 3rd degree tear, which like initially I was like, oh no, oh my gosh, because every time I see a 3rd degree tear, most of the time it's provoked by something, an episiotomy, a forceps, a ventus, a long labor, yada, yada, all these things. But this time it was a natural one, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh. But in reality, it was a natural one. It was just the body, the body just opened up in that way. I had stitches, everything is fine. And everything went back to normal, really. Like, I didn't have any problem, any issues. Like, it was all good, really. So yeah, that was it. And then I went home and I breastfed my baby for 21 months.
Wow, amazing. Wow, okay. Wow. So then how long between having baby number 1 to getting pregnant with your next 2 babies?
Yes. So that was 2 years after. So Milo was born in 2019 and I fell pregnant with the twins in 2021. I was ready a little bit earlier to have more babies, but my husband was away. I was away for 7 months, so we couldn't make it happen. But when he came back, I was like, okay, right, we're doing this. So when I discovered that I was pregnant, I was sick, very, very sick, like throwing up, being so sick. So I ended up having to go at the hospital when I was about 8 weeks. And they're like, oh, like we have to check that you're pregnant, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, no, because I didn't want to scan back then. It was a little bit early. So I wanted to scan like after 9 weeks, to be honest. So I was just like almost 8 weeks. And I was like, no, I don't want any scan. I just want you to put fluid in me and make me go back home. So I had some fluids, went back home, but I was really like, I was so sick. I just could not do anything. So we went for our scan. I think I was almost 10 weeks, really. And when we did the first scan, the lady put the scan on my belly and then she removed it quickly. And then she looked at me with two eyes like that. And I said to her, because I saw the screen, I said, I saw that. Put it back. So she put it back and she's like, okay, so there are two babies. And my husband is like looking at me and I was crying, I was screaming, I was happy, but at the same time, I was panicking. The reason is that I've been a midwife for a very long time, and I think I've seen only one natural birth, like actually vaginal birth, because the second one was more like an extraction. And also I have twin sisters.
Oh, wow.
And and my mom had a natural birth with the first, an emergency C-section with the second. She was put to sleep and they did a classical vertical incision. And I believe that is because they actually freaked out because she was a little bit prem. They were not expecting her to go into labor. And I believe also second twins was breech, and so they didn't know what to do and they just put her to sleep. It was that time when breech, it was a big thing. And so for that reason, my plan was to free birth again, because I was like, oh, that's easy, I just go baby, and then when they're like two, I was like, oh my gosh. I said to my husband, they're two, we have to go to the hospital. We need to have scan every 2 weeks. We'll have to go, maybe be induced or maybe have a Caesar, because there are two, This was my head, like my mentality in that moment. And then, same as I did last time, I'm like, what if there was a way to just have them at home, And then I started Googling there as well. And the podcasts, Freebirth Society, they had twins born at home. So I started listening to these stories, and that's why I'm always like, if I can share my story, I will, because that's how I made my decision. I listened to other women, real women stories, birthing their twins. And I realized that, so you can actually birth your twins at home. You can free birth if you want. So that was another new level for me, And I was like, okay, okay, it looks like I can do this thing. So I started talking to my husband, but I didn't tell him straight away. But we went for like a 20-week scan just to make sure, the girls, the twins, I didn't know whether were girls or boys, but just to make sure the twins were growing okay, make sure the placenta were, out of the way. And especially that I wanted to know what kind of twins they were, because of course I'm still thinking as a midwife, I need to know some things, like you can't really switch it away. And so they're like, yeah, that's fine, there is 2 placenta, there is 2 sacs. There are 2 different twins, fraternal twins, that's what they looked like. Okay, so the only thing is that on that day it was COVID time, roughly. And my husband couldn't come in to the scan.
Oh, that's so sad. Whenever I hear that of women, it's so sad.
Yeah, that was so sad. But that was also really annoying. I think that day, I was so annoyed that I almost had like a panic attack, because I'm like, look at my belly. It's gigantic. I know there is 2 babies in there. I just want my husband to see them, really, And they're like, no. And We were sitting next to each other. The room was like 50 meters from us. And they're like, nah, you can't come in.
Ugh, that's so crazy.
Yeah. And at that point, I'm like, okay, there's no logic in this. So I'm like, imagine me trying to explain, I want a natural birth. I want this. I want that. And I'm like, at this point, I don't have the energy to fight for something that I really want. And so that was the day that I said to myself, no, I'm not going into the hospital. I'm not doing any more scans. I don't want to see anybody until the babies are out.
Perfect.
And I disappeared. Nobody knew what I was doing. Nobody knew where I was. The only way to know what I was doing was to actually check my social media because I was documenting, you know. But otherwise, I was not replying to anybody. I blocked the hospital. Don't care. That's it. That was the end. That was that was it for me, you know. And and I just like started to like educate myself, inform myself, and just understand, you know, like the two babies, one is gonna come out and the second one is going to come out as well, you know what I mean? Like so, and like also for me, I knew that because I had, you know, die, so it's like I had the amniotic and dicorion, so it means like 2 placentas and 2 sacs, because I knew that they were like the lowest risk anyway, like when we are speaking about twins, you know. So I was like, yeah, no, that's fine. So then after that, we got ready and everything was fine. And at one point, I had to like turn off social media because unfortunately, people did not understand to do, did not understand why I was not doing any scan.
Yeah.
And everybody thought that I wanted to kill my babies and that I was really irresponsible. And people got also angry at me for my choice. And so it got to a point where it was really toxic. And I'm speaking like Italian community because I've always spoken in Italian up until, you know, a few weeks ago. And I was like, okay, I need to delete everything. So I just like turned off everything and, you know, I was just doing my thing. And everybody, you know, 37 weeks, it was Christmas time and everybody's like, Merry Christmas. Are the babies here yet? Are you still pregnant? I'm like, yeah, don't worry, I'm still pregnant. You know, like from the day I was pregnant with these twins, I said to everybody, watch me going to term with no problem. And they're all like, you can't know, twins, you know, they usually come preterm, blah, blah, blah. You might go to the hospital because you might have contractions and you might have preterm, you know, labor and this and that. And I was like, no, no, it's not going to happen to me, you know? And and of course I had contractions. Yes. What did I do about it? Nothing. I just stayed home. I had like warm baths, had a little bit of lavender, you know, and that was it. They just went away. So then around 38 weeks and 2 days, I was really heavy. Like I was really heavy. And to my husband, and I was like, I wasn't walking well. I was using a wheelchair. Like I was really tired. So I said to my husband, I think it's time. Gotta get these kids out. Like they're evicted. So that day we went to the beach. We just had like a really nice beach day. And I did some squat, you know, in the water. And then I said to him, it's time for the clary sage. Because whenever I use clary sage, I know labor is going to start. So he had just some sage, actually, and he burned the sage. And I said, okay, gonna have the babies. The sage. And then we went to bed. And around 4 a.m., I heard, pop, like that. Gosh, my water. So I got up like suddenly. I ran to the bathroom and then it went splash.
Oh, wow.
Like that. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having babies. And then my midwifery head came back and it's like, oh no, labor is never going to start, because a lot of time you see women that they break the water and then for days Nothing is happening. So I was like,
Mhm.
no. I am not doing this. You babies are coming now. So I was like, you're coming now. So I took some more essential oil, clary sage. I put it on my wrist, put it on my neck, on the belly. And then I started like doing squat, walking really like fast in the bathroom, right? And then like for 1 hour, nothing happened. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, no, I'm not having 12 hours or 28 hours or whatever it is of waiting for this labor to come.
Mm-hmm.
And at 5 a.m., I felt the first contraction.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, it's not like a little bit of contraction. It was not painful, but like intense. Like I knew that was labor, intense, and I was like, so I was like, yeah, I need a shower. So I turned on the shower and I woke up my husband. It was like 5:03, maybe something like that. I say, wake up. Game on. And then I was in the shower and 5 minutes after another contraction, so 5:05. Then 5 minutes after another contraction, 5:10. And then I have another contraction like until like 5:20 almost. And then at that point, like I was feeling them and I'm like, this is labor. So I said, because I was like, I'm not doing like last time that I didn't notice, this time I'm like, yeah, this is labor. We're starting. So I said, just go and wake up my mom. Okay? Because my mom was next room. So he goes and wake up my mom. And I said also, bring the bowl in. And meanwhile he's doing that, I yelled, baby's coming. First baby is out. Nobody was there. That's
my gosh.
So it's like 30 minutes labor. First twin.
Wow.
So she's out. The cord was really short. So I was planning to keep her attached, but it just couldn't be done. The cord was too short. I couldn't put her up. I was like with the other baby still in the belly, trying to do things. I was bearing down. So I was like, okay, we got to cut the cord. So we cut the cord. It was just like cuddling the baby and just having like really great time with the baby. So I did like about 10 minutes and then it was almost 5:35. And I said to my husband, it is another baby. I need to focus on this other baby because I just could not focus on what else was going on. So the contraction stopped. Like they had completely stopped, because I was just with this baby. So I gave this baby to my husband, little girl, gave it to my husband. And then I said, okay, game on. So contraction started again, 5:35. And this baby was breech. So I knew this baby was breech, because I could feel them before the labor, and I knew that one was breech. So I was expecting like a breech baby. So it's like, okay, I'm ready. And then around, I had like not many contractions, like maybe 3 or 4 contractions. And then the other baby just came out, not pushy, just came out, I beat down and it came out. But actually before this baby was born, that was my mom that she was looking at me like very scared. And because with her second baby, she had a Caesar.
Right. Yeah.
So the energy wasn't right at that point. And so I had to say to my mom, can you leave? So she left. She stepped out of the room and the second baby just came out.
Wow.
I just needed her to leave in that moment, So the second baby came out. She was a girl. Like everything was fine. Cord, it was too short. So I had to cut it. And then after that, like I just like cuddled them. And then at one point, I'm like, it's like 10 minutes after, I said to my husband, there's something really big that is coming out. Like, oh my gosh. And I thought, I'm like, is there a third baby? I was like, what? And anyway, I bear down and this massive placenta comes out.
Wow.
So I was expecting 2 placentas, but it was 1.
Okay.
And I don't know if they fused at one point or what happened, but it was 1 massive placenta. I was expecting the second baby to be breech. She came out head down.
Okay.
So
wow.
She must have turned during labor. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she came out head down.
Yeah.
And then also, one of my colleagues this year, a year and a half after, told me that actually she was born sunny side, so posterior.
Oh.
And I didn't even notice that she was looking at me while she was coming out, because I have the second baby, because I have a video of that. Is the only birth that I have a video of it, because whenever I tell the story, nobody believes me unless they see the video. Once they see the video, they're like, what's going on here? Wow. But that's the only proof that I've got, that all the things that I'm saying, this is actually what happened, And when you look at the video, if you actually like slow motion the video, because the baby just comes out like this, it's like that, And someone, like a troll, said to me, that's a fake baby. It's impossible to birth like that. And I'm like, no, it's not a fake baby. Because she comes out so quickly that you can't even see what's going on, what's happening. But if you slow motion, you will see that the baby is coming up looking at me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
So then with your twins, did you tear at all this time because they both came so fast?
Yeah. So, and that's what I thought. I was like, I need to go to the hospital because I'll probably had, another big tear. But because they knew me at the hospital, I called them and I said, I'll come later, So I had the shower, I had breakfast, my mom made me eggs, I breastfed the kids. And then 3 hours later, I went to the hospital and I had only a small degree there. And, looking back at the picture, I could have also leave it alone, like not suture it. But because I had the 3rd degree there, that's why I went and I was like, no, just put like a couple of stitch, like it's better that way, So I had just couple, just to put it together, but it was really tiny. So yeah, so that was it. So I went in there, I did my paperwork for my babies, and then I was back home maybe like an hour and a half later.
Wow.
And yeah, and then I breastfed the twins as well. Everybody was like, you can't breastfeed twins, you will not make enough milk, make sure you've got some formula at home. I was like, no, none of that.
Like, that makes no sense. Because
I know.
Obviously, if you're breastfeeding twins, your body is going to react and respond to making enough milk for 2 babies.
Yeah, exactly.
It just
exactly
makes no
right.
sense.
Exactly right. But the thing, and what I say to people is that a lot of people don't take the breastfeeding as a separate event. But we do know that if you do have like a positive and natural birth, like breastfeeding then comes with it, I didn't have an induction. I didn't have a Caesar. I wasn't tired. I was like happier than ever after having the kids, because I lost like almost 15 kilos, like with the birth, So I was walking again. My back was not sore anymore. Like I was like living the life, So it was like, I felt better than anything, And so, and even, like the twins, like the weight of the twin, one twin was 2.770 kilos.
Okay.
So I think it's like 5 pounds, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the second twin was 3.140. So that's like over 6 pounds, 7 pounds, maybe something like that. Is it? I think.
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were like normal weight, really, like both of them. And one of the twin was similar weight as my single baby, who was born after 40 weeks. They were born at 38 weeks. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So they were like happy baby, good babies. Everything was good. So like I went on and I breastfed them. And whenever people, they're like, so how did you do it? And I said, each baby had one boob, one breast. That's it.
Yeah.
And one breast produced enough milk for each of them. Easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy. That's, your body just knows, because you made these babies and your babies communicate to your breast as they're feeding and they make enough milk.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm still breastfeeding one of them. So, and they're 21 months now. So once she weaned herself at 13 months, she didn't want it anymore. It was tragic for me.
Yeah.
It was tragic, but it's okay. And the second one, she's still breastfeeding. So Yeah, until she wants.
Yeah. Wow. That's just so incredible to hear how quick your births were with your singleton
Yeah.
and with your twin babies.
Yeah,
Just
twins
like,
was 58 minutes, so less than an hour. They were out.
wow. Yeah, that's incredible. That's so incredible. But I mean, it's just so beautiful to normalize that, twin babies can be born at home. Yes, it can be
Yeah.
quick. And, you can breastfeed them for either as long as they choose, if they decide to self-wean at 13 months, or if they want to continue breastfeeding until they're 21 months. Like, babies are
Yeah,
smart and the body is smart. It knows how to do this. So,
it's true. It's true.
mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think like, a lot of time people they're like, what's the secret, because I think with Milo, people were really like negative about the fact that I was like, birthing is actually easy, and people were a
Mhm.
little bit negative because they're like, you were just lucky.
Mhm. Yeah.
But then it happened again. And I thought to myself, I mean, like, that can be just being lucky. And I feel like it's a component of mindset,
Mhm.
believing in yourself, but
Mhm.
also getting educated.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I could have gone down the rabbit hole of scan, 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 scan. That's ultrasound. What do you
Mhm.
think ultrasound could do
Mhm.
to a bubble full of water?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
was like, okay, no ultrasound. Okay.
Mhm.
No fear on me.
Mhm.
No, telling me this is gonna go wrong, that's gonna go wrong, that's gonna go wrong. It's like when
Absolutely.
you're thinking, something might go wrong, and then like all of a sudden it does go wrong. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not attracting any of this thing to me.
Mhm.
And so I try to stay positive. And I remember like every day I would smell like my favorite essential oil. And I
Mhm.
would say to my head, I'm gonna have a natural birth. I'm gonna have a natural birth. I'm gonna have a natural birth. Everything is gonna be fine. The
Mhm.
baby is just gonna come boom, boom, one after the
Mhm.
other.
Yeah.
I was just keeping saying like my mantra, like just in my head.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? I imagined my birth of my twins, and it happened exactly the same way I had pictured it in my head.
Mhm.
Exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Exactly the same way. And I remember one day I did share it on Instagram, and I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I'm sure that the birth is just gonna be boom, twins number one, boom, twins number two. And people are like, you are insane. Like, you are insane. But
Mm.
really, that is what actually happened.
Yeah, and it's so true. It's that mindset, like you're saying. If that's what you were envisioning every single day, smelling the essential oil, putting that connection to the scent, and like, my
Yeah.
babies are going to come, my babies are going to come. That's how you're going to feel when your birth starts. Oh, I got
Yeah.
this. It's okay. My babies will
Yeah.
come. But when you're going to the hospital and all it is fear, fear, your babies could die. This could happen to you. This, all of it ingrained. It just writes that programming in your mind. So when you start
Yeah.
birth, all you can think about is, oh my God, this is going to happen. Oh my God, this is going to happen. My babies will
Exactly.
die. And you're just sitting there terrified, and your body feels that. Your babies feel that. And of course, things will happen where you're
Yeah, and
most
labor
likely.
and labor can start if there is that resistance. Like
Exactly.
you need to be relaxed in every single cell of your body to just make it
Exactly.
happen. Surrender to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, that's so beautiful to hear, especially with you having such um a deep history in the medical model as you were working as a medical midwife, but you know, being like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm trusting my body. I can do what I want, and I know my babies will come safely without all the scans, without all the BS, without all that stuff. So, yeah, that's awesome.
Yes, yes. It was a really like it was such an awesome experience. And I was criticized so much though that in somehow like
Mm.
my trauma was more from people rather than my
Mhm.
birth, because my birth and all the choices and everything that I did, for me, I'm like, this is why I'm a conscious mother. This is why
Mhm.
I live the way I live. And like for
Mhm.
so long, I was like, I don't know if I should share, the truth, all the thing that I'm thinking and everything, because I was so afraid, I was so scared. And not long ago, I went to like a retreat in Bali, and I feel like I face myself, and I face my true self, and it was like, why are you hiding this from the public, and I said, and I was like, because I'm scared that people can't understand like how easy truly birthing your baby can be, because it is. And I did a little bit of work like with other women to test and see if it is actually true, and it is true. It is true. Like if the woman is equipped with the tool and with the information and with the knowledge and with the ability to connect to herself, she will be able to birth that baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't it so sad though, hearing you say that you felt more traumatized from the reaction and responses you got from people and not from your birth? Like,
Yeah.
it's so insane that people would go after a mother for birthing in her power and trusting her body and trying to make her seem like she's done the wrong thing. Even though she's had this beautiful, gorgeous, fast birth, and not coming to her and saying, wow, you did that. Can you show me the way? Wow, you did that. How did you? Wow, you did that. You stepped away from the system that's so harmful. That's great. It's just, we're so backwards in the way that when a woman has a birth in her power and wants to share it, everybody goes after her like wolves and like, that was wrong, you're terrible, when they should be saying, thank you for showing us this way. That was beautiful. How did you do it? Explain it to me. I want to know what you did, So
yeah, that was exactly the reaction after my first kid. But after the twin, I was like, oh my, especially like I work a lot like in the Italian, community, and they are not ready at all to hear anything, and for me, it was just crazy. And that was my big trauma after the birth of the twins, like the reaction from the community, really. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad. I'm so sorry that happened. Yeah. It's crazy.
But now I'm like, you know what? It's time to talk. Because I can't just sit and see other women not being able to experience what I had, because I see myself with my kids, and I know that I could have never been the mother that I am to my twins, especially because they can be challenging, and to my 4 years old, if I hadn't gone through that type of birth.
Yeah, absolutely. You're a way shower now. You are proof that it's possible. And yeah, your story, like you said, it needs to be shared because women do need to hear this. And when they hear it, even if they don't want to believe it right away, it's still going to be in the back of their mind.
Yeah, it's a seed.
Yeah, you planted the seed, and it's so beautiful that we have women like yourself that are sharing these stories, because we need those seeds planted everywhere. And then women will start stepping into their power and saying, I can do it too. Bibi did it with twins. I can do it too with mine.
Exactly. And I think, like, especially for me, after hearing, like, what gave me the strength to be like, I can do this was listening to story like mine, because otherwise nobody tells you. Like, it's not that your midwife or, your doctor at the hospital that's just going to tell you like, oh, actually you can home birth. Oh, actually you can free birth. Nobody's going to tell you that. This is going to be like, okay, this is high risk pregnancy. And this is what we're going to do until 37 weeks. If you get to that, if you're lucky to get to that, this is what they say to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have to share. And I also think, I feel like after a lot of things that have been happening in this world, women are starting as well to be a tiny bit more open to listen and to question, So I think, in the next 10 years, we're going to see like a big shift, a big change. And it's just a matter of being brave. Can be hard sometimes when you know the truth. When you like literally, the truth, you can see the truth. You're like, I know how to make you have a positive birth. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, how do I make you to understand that? So it's like, it's hard when you know the truth. But I feel like if we keep doing what we're doing and we keep staying in the space, in the next 10 years, there will be like a really big shift. We are still like in the middle of such a high medicalization. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I have to say it, but I don't know there, but in countries like Australia, like COVID, like really set back midwifery again. We were doing progress, but we kind of went backward now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to make some more progress again.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing is just trying and put the words out there and attract people, because people are gonna look for people like us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with everything you said. Thank you so much. Um, yeah, what a beautiful place to end on. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about your pregnancies, your birth?
I think the first thing that I want to share is that it's important to understand that when I am talking about connection with the body and with the baby, I'm also talking about fuel that we put in our body. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking no alcohol, no drugs, no vaping, no smoking, none of that thing. Okay. Because a lot of the risk, they actually come from outside lifestyles nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to say to women is to treat your body right from even before the pregnancy. Treat your body right. Don't smoke, don't do alcohol, don't do drugs, don't do vaping.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to say right now, because I feel like we are in this era where
Mm-hmm.
these things are kind of normal, but
Yeah.
they shouldn't be. So this is what I want to add. That
Yeah.
I didn't do any of these things. I took care of myself. I was eating healthy. I was doing a lot of exercise as well. Both pregnancy. Okay, so just a healthy lifestyle has contributed as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. Perfect. And if any women want to connect with you to speak about how you changed your mindset, how you birthed your twins, how you're so comfortable and positive, or even women that are working in the medical midwifery model and would like to, have their babies outside of it or get away from that, how can these women reach out to you?
Yeah, so I've been working a lot in the Italian system at the moment, but I do have also an English speaking account. So you can just write on Instagram, and is your underscore holistic midwife.
Perfect.
Or just send me an email, Bibi, your holistic midwife at gmail.com. It's probably just the easiest way, and we can have a chat for sure. But yeah, that's it. And
Awesome.
TikTok as well. TikTok is Bibi, your holistic midwife.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much, Bibi. This has been such a beautiful conversation with you. Thank you, sisters, so much for listening to this episode of the Freebirthing Color podcast. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one in a primal activation session, donate to the podcast, or to have your story featured here or in the blog, go to primalwomanportal.com for all the information to do so. Did you want to connect with our guest speaker? You can find all her information linked within the show notes. And if you have time, please subscribe, write a review, and tell a friend to have a listen so that this podcast and these stories of women birthing in their total power can be shared far and wide. Don't forget to check out the show notes for information on the Earth Daughters Women's Festival, the Breach Without Borders workshop, and much more. New episodes drop every Thursday morning, so stay tuned for the next amazing story to be shared on any platform that you prefer to listen to your podcasts on, or watch these episodes on the Freebirthing in Color YouTube page. And remember, your voice and your story matters. So if you're a woman of color or an Indigenous woman who's had a wild pregnancy and or birth outside of the medical system, submit your story, because it's so important that your voice is heard and celebrated in your radical journey of pregnancy, birth, and motherhood.